New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hi, it's me, Bonnie Gonzalez. Yes, your doula for grief. Here to welcome you back this Monday to another episode, another time that we get to be together and starting that journey of embracing and befriending grief. I am a grief coach, a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and also a licensed soul collage facilitator. But most importantly, I'm a human being right here on the planet with you at this time. And I am just so honored to be here. I felt really just super blessed as the music started to be here another day. And just to be able to join you in continuing to move the needle on grief, to continue to bring it out of the shadows and into the light of our daily lives and allow grief to work its magic. And I say that because loss is what we experience and grief is what we feel. Realizing that the superpower of grief is healing us through those losses. And losses come in a myriad of ways. Of course, I always say death is the big mother of loss, yes. But there are other losses that really penetrate our heart space as well. Loss of hopes and dreams, divorce, relationships, a job. Oh gosh, pets, pets are part of our lives as well. So those are the losses that we experience, and the grief are all those emotions, the sadness, the sadness, the heartbreak, anger is a big one there, and even joy at times can be associated with grief. But we are here today, as I said, to continue the dialogue and the conversation because grief needs to be heard, grief needs to be shared, and grief needs to be validated. So I offer you to drop a question or put a comment in the comment box and be a part of this conversation. Make this your hour as well. So again, thank you, and thank you for being here. And our topic today is cumulative grief. That is what I'm hearing from so many people about lately. It's like, how much more can I take? How many more losses must I endure? Some people refer to cumulative grief as grief overload. And that is a reality for us today. Multiple losses. I was just going to say that multiple losses or cumulative grief is definitely a part of the human experience. And I say that because when I look back and see some of the phrases, some of the words that we use, I remember once hearing that death always comes in threes. Here's a couple of cumulative grief passages. This one is from Hebrew. Bad things comes in packages. In the Swedish, German, Spanish, and French cultures, the expression was, misfortune seldom comes alone. In Latin, troubles are followed by troubles. The abyss attracts the abyss. In Poland, misfortune walks in pairs. And this one really spoke to me from Japan, Japanese. While crying, you get stung by a bee. For me, that kind of summed it up. That feeling of being in cumulative grief. Here you're crying and something else happens. And so that's our conversation. That's our topic of conversation today. And I just have the most incredible, spectacular guests today. I've been just so fortunate to have just wonderful guests, and today is no exception. And today, my special guest is Reverend Savanna Riker. She is a speaker, a teacher, and relationship coach. She started her spiritual journey at the age of 16 in Denver, Colorado. I think about what was I doing at 16, but she was starting her spiritual journey. Reverend Savanna supports people in their discovery of healthy, connected, conscious, intimate relationships and worthiness. An ordained minister with a master's degree in consciousness studies. Reverend Savanna has been a guest speaker at events in London, Vancouver, and Cairo. Over the last 18 years, she has taught hundreds of students with her signature classes and workshops across the world. And I've been so fortunate to be in some classes and studying with her, and highly recommend it, highly. And you may have seen her face on the cover of the February 2015 edition of Science of Mind magazine, where her article, The Sacred Amidst the Shadow, was featured. And she's based in Seattle, Washington. So welcome, Reverend Savanna. And just thank you for joining the conversation today with me on cumulative grief.
Of course, it's a big conversation.
So yes, I'm here to hold you as you share your story.
All right, yeah, I can. You want me to just jump right in?
Oh, just jump right in. That's how we do it.
Okay, yeah. So, gosh, for many, many years, I found myself supporting others through grief. And it wasn't until I want to say last year that I was hit really, really hard and really needing to ask for support. When I moved to Seattle from the Bay Area, I came here right before the pandemic and came into a new spiritual community. My life, of course, was in great transition. I had just moved to a new place, new people, all of that good stuff. And then the pandemic hit. And I felt like I did pretty well throughout 2020. I was holding a lot of space for folks. And I'm not unfamiliar with pain or sorrow or sitting with people in their pain and sorrow. I think it's actually a great gift of mine. But what I didn't know was what was around the corner. In 2021 of last year, a lot of people don't know this, but back in January of last year, I had tuberculosis. And the doctor said, Savanna, you have TB. I said, are you sure? Like, I literally laughed out loud at the universe because I thought, oh my first thought was, well, this is going to be a great sermon someday. because who gets TB? I mean, and then they said, well, how many countries have you been to? And we were able to sort through where I may have picked this up. But I thought, wow, this is really big stuff, So I went into this whole healing journey. And then come the summertime, I was laid off. I was told that my spiritual community here could no longer fund to have me because of, pandemic challenges with money. And so that was a hit. And then right after that, I got COVID. And it hit me really hard because of my lungs were already compromised. And literally within a span of, I want to say 2 months, I had at least 4 people close to me die, one of which was a former boyfriend of mine who went missing, and he had a car accident off of a mountain in Northern California. And so I got thrown into being spiritual advisor for his family, but also unable to hold it for myself. And then 2 days after I found this out that he was missing, another beloved hip hop artist friend of mine in Oakland passed away suddenly. And then a month after that, another friend of mine passed away. And then my cousin ended up dying of COVID and leaving 3 children and a wife behind. And it was what you said earlier, where I hit a point where I was like, I don't know how to hold this.
Yes.
Right? Like how do I hold this much grief? I don't even know how to process it, because I know there's stages of grief and we all go through them at different times. But I was questioning everything, but I was like, how do I hold my own grief and my own sadness, also show up in a spiritual community that I'm leaving? And where is my life going after this? All of these questions, because as you said, grief isn't just about the loss of a loved one. It's the loss of identity, the loss of our ego. There's so many ways that we grieve and don't know we're grieving.
I say the laundry list is very long of our losses that put us into grief. And I want to say this because I can really feel the enormity of what you're saying. And I always refer to or see spiritual leaders as being like the first responders. When an accident happens, there's an ambulance crew, they come and they whisk them away. And I see ministers as those people that come to our rescue in that moment of crisis. So when you're in your moment of crisis,
right,
where does that first responder turn?
That's right. And that was, I think, that was one of the hardest things for me, is because I was always used to holding space for others, that asking for support or being in a constant state of that grief, being able to articulate it and to know that it was okay. I realized that I had a lot of shame about it. I had a lot of, because in our organization, sometimes in our movement, in our teaching rather, we tend to bypass these things and think that we're supposed to feel good all the time, or we're supposed to eliminate our thinking by positive thinking and mental equivalence. And it's within our jargon and our semantics, but it's like, do we leave room for people to experience what they're experiencing, to hold all of it? Like, we can have all of the feelings and the emotions, right? And I think that my biggest challenge, I think, was asking for support and also not knowing what to do with it. I didn't know what to do with it because it wasn't something usual in my experience. I would say that I've had a trajectory of my life that's been, pretty expansive and unfolding and good, and it's been like this. And then all of a sudden, I just felt so defeated. Like, where do I turn when I need to fill up my cup? I think that's where you say the rubber hits the road, where we really get to go deep and dive deep. So
there was one thing that you said just a second ago. You were talking about going through all of this. You mentioned the word shame. I feel, and in my experience, shame is what prevents us, or maybe keeping it in the eye, prevents me from reaching out if I'm in shame. And I hear that from other people, but I was too ashamed to let people know.
Yeah. Or pride or ego, around, well, I should have it all together and I should be able to, use my spiritual teachings and my tools to help me get through it. But I think, what we're talking about cumulatively is what happens is, if we've had one grief that we've never processed, it's never, that energy lives within our bodies, we hold on to these things. One grief can trigger every other grief that came before it. And we don't even know it. You hear a song on the radio and, it just comes flooding back. And And it's just, it's so unexpected. And so I think that because I had so many things all at once, it got to the point where I had to give up control. I had to give up my need to have to figure it out. I had to give up my ego and pride about it, which was a massive ego death of my identity, of what is this really all about?
Yes.
But I think it brought me closer to what I give my meaning to in terms of like, what is love and what is the cost of this life, and am I living it to its fullness? And of course it brings all those questions of, am I fulfilling my purpose? And am I telling the people I love that I love them?
Yes.
I think that's what grief does to us.
Grief definitely opens us in a way that other situations just don't have that power. Grief has that power to really crack you open in a way that you didn't even imagine. And I find in that cracking open that you find parts of yourself that you didn't know. There. Was that your experience, or what would you say was
I would
one
say,
of the things? Yeah, one.
I don't feel like we ever may stop grieving. I think that it just changes and transforms as we grow and deepen. For me, it was, I just felt like I was in a tunnel of darkness for a very, very long time. And I would have people say to me, Savanna, you're going through a dark night of the soul, or you're on the hero's journey in the belly of the whale right now, and you haven't seen that silver lining yet. And so I think now, being a little bit more over on the other side, that grief still comes, of course, like I said, because grief is not linear. I think, to answer your question, it deepened me. It actually deepened me and made me ask all of these really big, important questions. I started asking questions around, well, what is my own self-importance? What makes me so important? A life can be taken away just like that, right? And what am I here to do? What am I really about? What is the purpose of all of this? How am I showing up in the world? I mean, these big, big questions started coming. And also, as I was saying before, I think the way I've gotten to know myself a little differently is there's been an ego death. It feels like less association with me as identifying as Savanna, the minister, the speaker, the da-da-da-da-da behind my name.
Yes.
Less of that, and more about what is the impact and the difference that I want to make on the planet. So I'm asking these questions now that I didn't ask before. And I think that has come with not only just spiritual maturity, but I think as a byproduct of so much grief all at once. I've proven that I'm resilient. I'm not totally out of it yet, but I've proven that I'm resilient,
Yes. I wanted to add, I'm just taking in your words. I'm taking that in, really feeling it. I too so resonate when you talked about a dark night of the soul and being in the belly of the beast. I had a lot of losses in 2020 and 2021, as we all did. And I kept saying, I didn't even, Reverend Savanna, relate it to grief. I just kept saying, I'm just in a dark night of the soul. I'm just in a dark night of the soul. It's like things that brought me joy before were no longer joyous. I said, I put on my cheerleader face during the day and cry myself to sleep at night. Yeah. So, but it was a very life-affirming way, in the way that you said, seeing parts of yourself, being more than Reverend Savanna, the speaker, the whatever, seeing ourselves as that true human here on the planet. And I was able to tap back into, what is mine? Where am I going? It just allowed me to have deeper life questions. Yeah. And I wanted to ask, was there ever a time that you had any, that it led you to question your own spiritual beliefs and practices?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. Like, okay, we're talking about shame. Like, there was a moment where it was just so much that no matter, a few of my colleagues tried to give me anecdotes and, of course, mental equivalents and, giving me tools. And I'm like, I know these tools. I use them in my life. I know they work. But at one point, they said to me, you're just going to have to surrender and get on your knees. You're just going to have to give it over to God. And I said, well, I don't know that I believe in this God of my understanding anymore that I've always, I mean, I was questioning everything that I've taught in the last 20 years.
Yes.
Which is a lot. It's, again, that shame and that pride, but it was essential because now I feel like a different person. I feel that my walk, again, it's my walk with the presence. And, I think there were moments where I was angry at God. I was like, okay, I've gotten this far and I've gone through a lot of hell in my life and a lot of difficulties. And you brought me this far. Why now? Why is this such a struggle? And people tend to want to say things like, well, what's the value and the gift in this when you're in it? Or what are the pearls of wisdom that you could gain from this? Or couldn't you get to gratitude? And I'm like, I am not there yet. Like I remember, and this is something I tell my students, is that we have to give people the dignity of their process. Like, do not take me out of the process. I know on some level within me, I know I'm going to get through this. Like, I know that, I trust that, even though I'm questioning my beliefs, my spiritual beliefs, the power of God, the power of my mind, the power of all of it. Even though I'm questioning all of that, I think that, sorry, I think I lost you, or maybe I didn't.
No, I'm still here.
Okay, good. Even though I was questioning all of that, there was something within me that knew that I would get to the other side. But for someone else to try to rush that process, these things cannot be rushed.
Yes.
We can't force the lesson if it hasn't come yet. And I think for me, I had to have a complete ego death about it. About, again, I keep using these terms because they're so important. Self-importance of what is my name in the world and how am I showing up in the external. It was all about ego and pride and less about, and now it's becoming more of, what is the impact I want to make? How is this grief deepened me as a person?
Oh, I am so overjoyed to hear you say not rushing the process. My term that I use is that when grief comes, I let it have my way. I let it have its way with me. Just recently, I'm going through a really difficult experience, but one night I just decided to put some music on and just allow myself to cry. I just put this music on. I found it just evoked everything inside, was able to come up and out. I feel like, it's that coming to pass. It comes to pass. And I don't want anybody to think, oh yeah, one night of music and tomorrow I'm better. But I had that night of music. I cried, I sobbed. The next morning I got up and put on my favorite dress and just put my makeup on and say, okay, grief, thanks for visiting me last night. That was awesome. I feel that. And that's my experience. But I just so loved hearing you say that it's not a process to be rushed.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause sometimes, as you were saying earlier, we don't know that that's what it is. Some people, when they can't get out of bed in the morning and they're depressed, it's you can't always articulate or be self-aware of that it's grief. I've had that experience where I was in a funk, or there's just unresolved trauma or unresolved something, and I couldn't pinpoint what was happening. And when a colleague of mine said, Savannah, I think you're grieving, I was like, oh, now this is making a little more sense when I could actually name it. When I could actually say, this is what I'm experiencing. It's not the truth about me, but it's what I'm experiencing right now. And allow me the dignity to have the process I need so that I can get the message, so that I get the gift, because when we're in it, like I was saying to my friend who said, Savannah, you just need to surrender. I said, listen, I understand everything you're saying to me intellectually. I got it here, but I'm not hearing anything else you're saying. Like it is just because when we're in the midst of that fog, sometimes it's hard to be talked out of fog, So
Right.
the only way is through.
That is true. That is definitely true. The only way is through. Reverend Savanna, I just want to take a minute and read some of the comments and acknowledge the people that are sharing this hour with us. I see Megan is here. Warm greetings from Mexico. She's here in Jalisco also.
Awesome.
And I have a namesake out there, Bonnie Champion Umstead. Hello, Bonnie. And Bonnie also had a yes. I'm sure it was to some of our conversation. And Gina Gupta is, if we allow the light within, the light within will always lead us home. Yes, perspective. I appreciate that, Gina. And grief is transformational eventually. And that's what I have said about grief from the beginning, that grief is transformational. There is no way that you can enter a period of grief and grieving and come out the other side unchanged.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you to speak to that.
Yeah, what I wanted to also say is that I think that one of the beautiful things that we can do to support ourselves when we're going through something really, really difficult is create ritual around it. What I found helped me the most in processing all of this, because when you have that many deaths, one by one, and not only that, but one of those deaths that I experienced is those losses, he's still missing. So it's one of those things of like, you don't feel you got closure. When someone goes to overseas to war or something, or, an airplane goes missing in the middle of some body of water, right? It's like how I couldn't process how to create closure for myself. And so one of the things that I did that really helped me was I thought, okay, I don't know how to hold all this grief, but I know that it needs to go somewhere. I cannot keep it in. And my tears are not, there were tears, but I knew there was more. It was like right here, I can always feel my grief in my throat, which means that I need to speak, I need to express, I need to get it out of my body through movement, through exercise, through walks, through being in nature. But the way I did it, which was the most incredible experience, is I called up a good friend of mine who is a sound engineer who has a studio near me. And I said, I need to come into the studio and I need to sing. Singing. And I stopped singing years ago because somewhere in my, I don't even know, in my storytelling, I thought I wasn't any good. And so I said, you know what? The only way to process this is through singing. And so the first time I went in, we recorded. I had very little lung capacity because of the COVID experience and because of the tuberculosis, right?
Yeah.
But when I listened to it back, there was such a raw vulnerability there. That was this innocence that we talk about when we talk about beginner's mind, when we come back to the part within us that has never been hurt or harmed or betrayed. I kept that recording. My mother, I think, loved that one better than the actual one we chose because of that. And then 2 weeks later, I went back and recorded. And what I did with that, just the process of doing that, the process of getting out of my bubble and out of my isolation and going into the studio, expressing through, and the song is called Little Voice. And it's all about speaking and expressing our voice into the world and being the light. I put that, I made it what I call my grief project. I said, I literally, if you can create a ritual around it, it was like, this is going to be my grief project. And I'm going to spend this time focused on it. And what I did was I looked for all of the people in my life who had made an impact in my life over the last 2 years. And I put together this really beautiful video collage of all of them. And I put the final product, once we mixed it and produced it, I put the final product to that, and it became my own project and my own gift to share. And so I shared it publicly, which I wasn't sure if I was going to do that, because sometimes in these rituals, it wasn't about anyone else. Clearly, it was about me, but it was about, how do I get some closure? How do I process this pain? And I happened to just choose to do it through music, but there's so many ways to grieve.
And music and singing, that is a part of sound healing. Sound healing, the vibrations in our body. We're 90% water, and that singing vibrates and moves the molecules around, shakes up the energy. I'm just touched by that. And I just want to say, do you feel, or ask rather, do you feel that you would have found your voice had it not been for all of these episodes with such intense loss? Or have you given
not in the same way. I think there was a meaning, there was depth there. There was something about doing this thing that forced me out of my comfort zone, but I was at such a low place that it didn't matter at that point. It was like, I just need to express this somewhere. I need to reach out for support. And oftentimes, just like when we support other people don't know what to say, and I wasn't looking for people to say anything really, except to just hold space. And I think that's a new concept for a lot of people, is learning how to hold space for others who are going through painful stuff. To me, that's one of the greatest gifts people could give me. But I don't think it would have landed the same way had it not been this exact way. So now, looking back, I can say, yeah, it was supposed to happen that way. It's unfortunate.
Yes.
But maybe it's part of the tapestry of my life, of what I'm here to do, and getting the lessons that I need to get, to teach what I teach. There was a saying, I think years ago, and I don't know who said it, but that sometimes those with the most darkness have the most light. And they talk about Jesus, the master teacher who went through his own dark nights of the soul, and how he was able to transform the world with his light. Right. I think that we have to know contrast. We don't just bury our heads in the sand and say that everything is good all the time. That's the thing about spiritual platitudes, that drives me a little bananas. But if we can stay with it and let the grief inform us and teach us, I think that is truly the gift at the end.
And you bring up lots of points. One that I'll speak to first. It's from that poem, The Invitation. Are you familiar with that?
I'm very familiar.
Sit with someone in pain and not move, do anything to fix it. Sit with mine or your own. That is something that we are just starting to light the candle or flex the muscle. To be able to sit with someone in pain, emotional pain, and not do anything to fix it. And Reverend Savanna, I think being able to do that comes from understanding the importance of just sitting with someone. I think we don't realize the value that holds to the other person. To sit, you don't even have to say anything. You can offer to hold their hand or say, can I hold you, or be with you physically. But I think it starts with us understanding the value of just that human contact, just that connection.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about the number of people, I mean, I've seen this a lot in our field just because of the nature of what I do, but pastors who work in hospice, you'll notice at the end of someone's life, oftentimes, I've seen this happen, family members or even their caregiver will get into their bed with them and literally just lay with them, literally just be there there's no words, they're just there. Right.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think that's a really, really powerful thing. But like you said, it's hard to know that if you haven't walked it through it.
Yes.
Holding space. I think that these kinds of things, the difficulties in our lives, they give us a greater level of compassion and empathy for others.
Mm.
Then we have a touch point to go, oh my gosh, I so resonate with your grief because I know I've been through it. I've walked it. And
Mhm.
gosh, it was painful.
Yes. 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 Um, and I think right now, as we're moving through, post-pandemic, with that whole loss of lifestyle, grieving that loss, I think it's Michael Beckwith that calls it the Corona bonus.
I haven't heard that.
The Corona bonus is because I feel, this is just me, I'm keeping it in the eye, that because we've all experienced what it feels to feel that loss of connection, that now we can hear each other, we can be with each other coming from that place of a shared experience.
That's right. Yeah.
That I feel that is, I feel that that's what's happening now. Conversations like we're having, I feel allows us to now talk about or lean into the discomfort.
Yeah.
As you said before, that we're, from the philosophy of, change your thinking, change your life, positive thinking, that kind of thing. But just knowing that leaning into discomfort does have its gifts.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to acknowledge that it is difficult to start to lean into something that culturally we have not given voice to.
Yeah. It's kind of this balance of allowing myself to be in the discomfort and the pain of whatever I'm experiencing. And at the same time, as I'm starting to come out of it, have the tools and the resources to get myself to the place that I want to be. Because here's the tricky part of it, I think, with some people is that we get so associated then with our grief, with our difficulties and challenges, that we self-indulge in them, and then they become the identity and the narratives and the stories that we continue to tell over and over and over again, which then creates its own energy, right? So then we stay in what we call victim consciousness, right? So we have to be careful that's why, I mean, it's such a process of discernment and mindfulness, of being really aware of I'm gonna grieve this today, and I'm gonna give myself all the time that I need today to grieve all of this. And then in the morning, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna get out of bed, and I'm gonna do the things, right? It's the reason why, yes, it's a both and. I can hold space and I can go through what I'm experiencing, and I'm gonna move my feet. Otherwise, like I said, we self-identify then with the grief, and it becomes our whole.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
yes, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I had a life coach that would say, whatever, maybe if I was saying I'm just in deep emotional pain, I'm just in agony, and he would say, yes, a part of you is. Yeah. Not the whole identity that I am just one ball of walking emotional distress. And that was a way of bringing it back. And as you were saying, the next day getting up, like my night of sorrow, but the next day getting up to say, okay, it's a new day. I'm putting on my best dress and moving forward.
Yeah, well, and you could also look at it as a companion friend who's just there. I know you're there. I know this grief is present. I know I feel sad. I know I feel fill in the blank. And I'm still going to live. I'm still going to move my feet towards, my willingness. I'm going to then eventually, hopefully, my willingness can turn into my gratitude. What can I be grateful for? And then my gratitude can turn into, my hope, right? I don't ask people who are in survival and poverty and, hungry to move into automatically a place of fullness and hope. I want to vibrationally move us into a place of willingness. Am I willing to feel differently today? Or am I willing to make a different choice in this moment? I know this grief is here. It's here. It's not going anywhere. But I'm also going to focus on the daily parts of my life that bring me joy. I think that's just really essential so that we don't get stuck in the self-indulgence of our own suffering.
Yes, yes. And I so appreciate that. I so appreciate hearing that. My one thing that I would add to that, and you can let me know if you agree, is to have someone that you can talk to. That grief, as I said, needs to be heard. Trying to move through things in isolation can be very, very difficult. Very difficult. And if you wanted to speak to that, having a confidant or a friend, do you find that to be of value for yourself or to others you have ministered to?
People who hold you in the highest and best light, no matter what. I think if what you could do, if I were going to offer a little anecdote, is you could carry around a little piece of paper. And on that piece of paper are the names of the people who love you at your best and at your quote unquote worst. People who can hold space, hold light for you. And those are the people who love me for my failures and for my weaknesses, as well as for my joys and for just all that I am. It's a really good reminder. So you pull that out and go, okay, yeah, I have people in my corner, And if you don't have that, I also recommend, writing. It's another way. Just get it out, any form of expression, I think, is important with grief.
Just beautiful. Just beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to recommend that our audience go back. I watched your talk from Sunday service yesterday. I love so many wonderful takeaways in your message, and I offer people to go back, and it's on Facebook, on your Facebook page, correct? Can you know where to find it?
Yep. Savanna Noel Riker. You'll find all of the services that I've been part of on my wall. Yeah.
And I so enjoyed listening, but I so enjoyed the experiential mindfulness practice of a butterfly hug.
Yeah.
So I just thought I would ask you to do that. But before you do that, I just want to explain to the audience that Reverend Savanna was so kind to take time out of her busy day to be with us in this hour. And she's going to be getting back to doing her work. But before she goes, I would love if she could just give us this tool to take with us to be mindful. Maybe if you're feeling overwhelmed or but I'll let you explain it and demonstrate it.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things that that I think is really important when we are going through any sort of emotional thing, when we feel triggered, when we feel reactive about anything, it's important for us to be able to deregulate our nervous system. So we want to calm the nervous system. You can do this through meditation, of course, and mindfulness practices, but I want to show you something. And of course, you can do this with me in the moment, and it's called the butterfly hug. And basically what it is you cross your arms over your body like this, and you just start tapping. You start tapping bilaterally. It's like tap, 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 tap. And what happens is this bilateral stimulation, it activates and it integrates information from the two hemispheres of our brain. And so it helps us process, it helps the brain process distressing memories, experiences, and emotions. So when you're triggered, you might just hold this tapping like this for 30 seconds to 3 minutes. And you just want to breathe and you just want to be present to everything that you're experiencing. And as you tap, you might notice, do you spontaneously yawn or sigh? You could even just close your eyes. Does your core settle? Does your breathing slow down? Your tummy might even giggle, or you might feel waves of warmth, or you might even want to cry. Because what this is these are all signs that our nervous system is releasing stored trauma. And we store trauma in the bodies if we don't release it. So it's that survival energy that I was talking about. And so we move by doing this towards regulation, where anxiety and our depression can abate. And so I offer you this as just one tool. It's called tapping. You can go look it up if you want more techniques. But yeah, it's very helpful. You see, I already feel calmer.
Mm. And I feel calm, calm in your presence, calm with the tapping.
Thank you.
Just thank you so much for being here, because I just am just overjoyed, honored, and you've given us all gifts today in this short time together. So
much for having me. I love to talk about this stuff. I think it's important. It's essential. As you can see here, you can find me at savannahnoel.com. My Instagram is savvynoel. You can also find me on Facebook. And there's my email right on the screen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super grateful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Be well. Be well.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. I think what we will do with just staying in that space, we're going to take a break. So just during this break, maybe continue just tapping during this break, and we'll come back. Welcome back. Gosh, I'm really, so relaxed and just grounded in love after that beautiful butterfly hug that Reverend Savanna just led us through. And thank you. I see a couple comments about the butterfly hug here already. Gina says, I love this. And Megan says, what a beautiful healing meditation. Thank you. So isn't it wonderful to know that we have tools right at literally our fingertips? And that butterfly hug comes from, there's something called emotional freedom technique, EFT. And some people just refer to it as tapping. And it's very simple, can be done at any time. So I invite you to just look that up. YouTube is our favorite here. I'm sure Facebook has some tips on tapping or EFT, but I know that you can look it up and find more ways of engaging in tapping. So just want to thank Reverend Savanna. How beautiful. What a beautiful spirit. What a beautiful light. So grateful for her giving up her time and energy today to be here with us. As I love saying, we are all in this together. So I just want to make a few announcements, first starting with just giving gratitude for New Thought Media Network for having such a deeply inspirational, spiritual platform that programs like mine can bring to you, making a place for programs to be and to be seen and to broadcast out into the world. And with that said, I want to just talk about a few new shows that are coming up on New Thought Media Network. As a matter of fact, one of the new shows started yesterday, and it's called The Miracle of Prosperity with Reverend Webb. If you didn't watch it, you must go back and look. Ayala Van Zant was his special guest, and hope to have Reverend Webb here on the program with me. 2 weeks ago, we had Zoe DeMoro, who is going to have a new program on New Thought Media Network, premiering on Thursday at 12 noon Mountain Time. And the name of his program is Choice, Your Creative Superpower. So welcoming Zoe to New Thought Media Network. So let's tune in to hear more about our creative superpowers. And today at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, Gina will be on with the Peace Circle. So join her at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. And every day at 8:15 a.m. and 8:15 p.m., there is prayer time. And it's only 15 minutes, and it's a powerful 15 minutes. And you can also send your prayers into prayers@ntmedia.org and get yourself all prayed up to move through either the beginning of the day or to close your day. And I just want to say again, thank you so much for joining us. And just to bring some connectiveness to the theme of our show and to now, to know that cumulative grief is, again, a part of the human experience. And just knowing that you can be in cumulative grief is half the battle, to just bring awareness to it. Also realizing that we all grieve in different ways. Different people express different emotions at different times, in different ways. So being aware of that, expanding our own patience with ourselves, and when we're patient with ourselves, we can be patient with others. I do want to say again, I can't say it enough, don't grieve alone. Don't grieve alone. Reach out, as Reverend Savanna said, have on that little piece of paper the names of people that will support you through thick or thin. I heard it said, instead of saying a ride or die friend, have a ride or thrive friend. And just make sure that it's someone that can listen to you without moving to fix it or make it better. Just someone that can just listen. And don't forget to have someone that you can just have fun with. As Reverend Savanna reminded us, we can hold both. We can hold deep sadness, and we can hold tremendous joy. We're capable of all of that. So I just thank you for being here with me today and with my special guest, Rev Savanna. Next week, our show is going to be on how grief is held in the body. So make sure you bring your body and your mind right here next Monday for Your Doula for Grief, as we move into how grief is held in the body. So until then, thank you so much for watching. If you need help, reach out. Don't let shame stop you. As I said, I am a grief coach. Reach out if you need psychotherapy, if you need group support. One last thing, I and Zoe, who's going to be on later this week, we do offer a grief support group on the first Sunday of the month, and it is through Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. You can just check their website, and it's under events, and it's at 12:30 Pacific time. So join us if you need a little support next Sunday. You just want support. Come on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. New Thought Media Network. Thank you.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? Or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.